Hello YouTube. So I got a comment on one of my videos the other day asking, aren't all African cichlids very aggressive? And by no means is that true. There's so many community safe species, and today Chelsea and I are going to go over 5 West African cichlids that are definitely community safe.
Yay!
Alright, to prove that they're community safe, here's a 40-gallon community tank with 4 species, and we see 2 of them right here. Why don't you start with the Gunai?
Okay, so the larger of the 2 that you're seeing is the Chromitid tilapia Gunai. These guys are really cool and they're very underrated. They come from the coastal river drainages of central western Africa, like near the St. John River and Cross River drainage. They're almost exclusively like inhabitants of lowland environments, like coastal floodplains and things like that. They stay where they can sift sand. They're actually really similar to like the South American Geophagus. So you'll notice they have kind of a downturned mouth and almost look like a Jurapari or some type of Geophagus, and they constantly sift through the sand, and it's really enjoyable to watch. So they're pretty easy as far as parameters go. Their temperatures are 75 to 78, so very manageable. pH is in between 6 and 8. And their eating habits are similar to that of like Geophagus. They like to eat a lot of like plant matter and like little tiny crustaceans and things like that. So feeding them is really easy. When you have them in aquariums, they'll eat pretty much anything, but they really like bloodworms, they really like bug bites, stuff like that. If you can see the one in the back right now, I don't know if we can get her, but she is the prettiest female that we have. So those are 2, we have what I think are 3 females and a male, which I would be really excited if that turns out to be the case. But you can see they have that really pretty like iridescent chrome on the dorsal, and then the females are gonna have really pink stomachs, just like Pelvic Wiiachromis and Wiiachromis, really similar. You can see she has a really nice pink belly right now. I'm really pleased with how these are growing out. We got these from the wet spot, and the owner actually bred these. He really likes them as well, and I used to keep them years ago. They're excellent fish. They do really well in community tanks. You can see they're almost a little bit shy. So you don't want to keep them with a lot of really boisterous cichlids or boisterous fish. They're doing well with what we have them with now, but I think as they get bigger, they're probably going to need their own 40 breeder. We're going to see if anybody pairs up. She has attitude towards everybody, which that's kind of fun to watch. But yeah, they're really great fish. I'd say if you want to keep a pair long-term, 40 breeder would be perfect. But if you plan on keeping more than a pair, you're going to need like, I would say a 75 and up, but I'd say like almost like a 125 and up, because when they're full grown, females are going to be about 4.5 to 5 inches, and males can get up to 7. I've never seen a male get that large. I've seen them get about 5.5, 6, but not bad as far as size goes either. You just want to make sure if you have them with other cichlids, you have a lot of space.
Awesome. Now what are these goofballs that are darting around everywhere?
These are some of the most fun fish ever. I adore these. These are these slender buffalo heads. So they're Steatocranus tenanti. And a lot of people are used to the standard buffalo heads, which I also love and have kept, but these are my favorite. They just, like you said, they're just clowns. They're so funny. They never stop moving. The way they move is really similar to that of like gobies and blennies. They kind of hop around because they have a reduced swim bladder. They actually come from the Democratic Republic of the Congo around the Malabo Pool and Congo River. And they're in really fast flowing water. Like we're talking rapids and really turbulent waters. So they kind of stay near shorelines, but they're still in the thick of it. So that reduced swim bladder helps them to hang on in those rapids. Their temperatures are 77 to 82. So again, very manageable. pH 6 to 7.5, very manageable. Like a lot of West Africans, they're omnivores, so they're very easy to feed. Again, bug bites, bloodworms, things like that. They do really well with those. High quality flake, that kind of stuff. They go for anything. Just make sure that it sinks. But they are quick to eat. So I'd say they probably outcompete every single fish in this tank for food. They're the very first ones to eat every single time. They really like to hop around on rocks because that's where they live in nature. They like to hang on to the rocks, and so we try to keep a lot of rocks in this tank because they will be all over them. I put them up on the wood as well because they hop up there, and there's actually one up there, right there in the wood, hanging out between the rock. Like they love to do that. They pop out all the time. They are clowns. So they're best kept in pairs unless you have a really good sized tank. These guys are obviously really small and still growing out. But if you want to buy a group of like 4 to 6, let them pair off and then act accordingly. If you do get a pair, keep them in like a 40 breeder and they'll breed for you pretty easily. They're really enjoyable to watch. But if you keep them in larger groups, you probably want to do like a 125 just so they have enough space to form territories. But they're really, really fun fish to keep. I love them. I've never had issues with them being overly aggressive with anything. Like any cichlid, they have their moments, but males are going to be about 5 inches, females like 3.5, and the males will have an extended dorsal, and they kind of get a little more color than the females, not a ton, but just a little bit more. So I think we have 2 males and 3 females. You can see one of the males right there to the far left. I think that's one of the nice males. He's looking pretty good. So.
All right, well, let's take a look at this guy while he's out, because we're not going to see very much of him. What is this dude here? That's
Cichlid Tigra. They're a really, really different fish.
And we only have, what, one pair? Sorry to interrupt.
We have one pair. We have a male and a female. The one you just saw over to the right here, that's the male. He's back in there. He hops around on that side, and the female tends to stay towards the left, I've noticed. They don't really hang out together yet, which I'm hoping changes, but I have searched high and low since we got these guys, and we've had these guys for a while now, for months. I haven't been able to find a whole lot of information. They come from the Congo River, like the lower Congo River by the Nkisi River and the Inga Rapids. So they also are in really fast flowing water. Males usually get like 4.5 to 5 inches, females 3 to 4. Their temperatures are similar to that, other species in the tank, 75 to 80, pH 6 to 8. They're relatively peaceful from what I've seen, but I have found very, very, other than the bare minimum basics on these guys, I have not been able to find anything. That's the female right there. They're good with the other fish in the tank so far. I'd like to get them back in their own tank and see if there's any spawning, but just a very cool fish. They look really similar to the buffalo heads. I've sometimes confused the two when they're moving really quickly, and I was wondering if there would be any aggression because of that. I haven't seen any yet, but these are young fish, so we're going to keep an eye on it and see how it goes. But so far, I've not had any problems with this tank at all. So,
all right, well, let's take a break from this tank real quick and look at a different fish here. Now, this tank is not the best because they did spawn. There's fry, and so we kind of just let the tank go because we don't want to disturb them. But tell us about these guys.
So those are Wiiachromis signatus, and they've been a very fun fish to keep. They spawned really quickly after we got them. I think it was probably maybe a month or a month and a half, and they had already had babies. I think they probably even had them before that, and we just didn't realize it. They've been pretty regular with their spawning. So they come from Western Liberia, like Sierra Leone, Guinea area. Males are usually like 4 inches, females around 3.5. Standard for that, type of fish. Wiiachromis, Pelvic Acromis, those types of things usually get around that size, and they are very similar to Pelvic Acromis. So they actually used to be Pelvic Acromis before they were reclassified. Keeping them is very similar to keeping cribs. So pH can go as low as 5, but up to like 7, 7.5. Temps can be 75 to 81, so pretty standard. I've never met a West African that really had crazy demanding temperatures. So I really like these guys because they're seeming to be very good parents. I think like a lot of cichlids, it comes down to your specific fish, and these guys have been pretty good so far. I think the biggest thing we have to keep an eye on with them is once they spawn again. We've noticed that some fry have disappeared because they have spawned yet again. So they're really regular, like every 3 weeks with their spawning. Very cool fish though, really pretty. The females have what's called a shine spot. I wish she'd come out because it's really impressive. It looks like a mirror, like she's on fire. And of course she's gonna just stay in the cave the whole time. Males are really pretty too, but I actually like a lot of these types of fish. The females are a lot prettier than the males. So she's just gonna stay in that cave with the fry forever. Very highly doubt she comes out. But when the fry get older, she'll come out, and she's really fun to watch. They're great parents.
Now, it's safe to say that all these fish are community safe, but we have these by themselves because they are spawning. Would the other species we've gone over, would you say, like, if you want to spawn them, they should be species only, or?
I have mixed thoughts on that. I like to kind of do both and see how it goes. I think it just worked out that we had a tank for these guys, so they got their own tank, but I also have had a lot of cribensis, so Pelvic Acromis and, Wiiachromis, they've spawned in community tanks. I don't think it's a problem. I think you're going to have to be a lot more attentive to the fry and the other fish in the tank to see how they handle it and to make sure there isn't a lot of aggression from the parents. But I don't know, having them in this tank has been so easy because when their fry get older, it's really enjoyable to watch them be parents because they're, like I said, they're great parents. So the fry are all over the place, they feed on everything, they're sifting through the sand, And I think that, you know, Pelvic Wiiachromis and Wiiachromis babies are some of the cutest fry ever. Those little long, they just have those little long bodies and they're hilarious. So it's really enjoyable to watch. I like having them in a tank by themselves. So one half of that duo is one of our Pelvic Wiiachromis Drachenfelsii. These are very cool fish. I really enjoy them. They're very, very pretty. So they come from Cameroon in West Africa, and they're actually only found in the Wari River system. They were originally introduced as Taeniotis Wari back in 2014, but they've since been recategorized to the Pelvic Wiiachromis.
Look at the female.
Yeah, she's unreal. When I was picking these out, because we were able to hand pick these, and I was being real crazy about these guys, they actually had paired up already. They looked amazing. I spent some time getting these guys. They were worth it. Look at her. She looks like that all the time. That's not just like right now. That's an all the time look for her. They're not generally shy at all. They're usually right out front eating. Their temps are right around 75 to 80. Super easy. pH 6.5 to 7.5. Again, super easy. They're cave spawners, just like most, you know, all Pelvic Wiiachromis and like Wiiachromis, they're going to want to lay in caves. They're great parents. These guys have not spawned yet, which is kind of a bummer, but as you can see the male right now, getting really loud with this Guntheri here, it's looking like they might be cleaning off an area. She's been cleaning this area for like the last couple days, and he's been extra spicy, so I don't know. Maybe we'll finally see something. There's a lot going on in this tank. So this just goes to show you that yes, spawning in community tanks can happen. I wouldn't doubt it if they did. It would be a lot harder to make sure the fry survived. So they might at some point get their own tank here so we can see what happens. But they're a very, very fun fish to keep just because they're enjoyable to watch, and I know they'll be good parents eventually, which is helpful.
Yeah, this is a very fun tank. This just goes to show you that you can do a lot with a small tank. I mean, 40 gallons is not a small tank, but it's not a large tank by any means. And there's still so much going on in here that you could just, it's one of those tanks that you can just sit and stare at for just hours and hours.
And up top, there's the Microtenopoma and Sorghii. So we also have other species in this tank that inhabit kind of the higher areas, and then we have the baby whale in here, and they all do really well.
Yeah, start researching West African fish. There's a lot of cool species.
These are not more difficult to keep. They're very easy to keep, very similar parameters to South Americans, but they just, it's like a whole new ball game with these guys. It's really fun.
All right, there you go. 5 species that I've actually never kept before, and Chelsea has turned me on to, and I'm just quickly falling in love. I've kept Nanochromis, which is another really cool. There's like 6 or 7 species. There's some that I would stay away from, like the Wiiachromis.
The Rubra labiatus, don't do it.
Yeah,
they're beautiful, but don't do it. They're
just very angry.
It's a losing battle. It's very frustrating.
While there are peaceful, community-safe ones, there's also some that are not. So just do your research. As always, if you can't find these locally, I have discount codes for Dancefish and the Wet Spot down below, so check those out. Any final words?
Go look up these West Africans and do yourself a favor and get some. They're amazing.
Any final words?
Go buy fish.